Your prefrontal cortex isn't broken, it's been occupied. And the occupiers don't wear uniforms. They wear infinite scroll. You feel it in your jaw, in the hollow behind your eyes.
In the way your thumb moves before your mind decides, swiping left, refreshing, pulling down, tapping again like a reflex carved into bone. This is not fatigue. This is occupation.
Slow motion close-up of a finger dragging across a black phone screen. Light flickering, ghosting, pixelating. The first movement of the mind is not in your power, but the ascent to it is. Epictetus, Enchiridion 1.5. That flicker, the microsecond between stimulus and action, is where your sovereignty lives.
Or used to live. Because what you are experiencing right now is not distraction. It is neurological annexation. Algorithms do not persuade you. They bypass persuasion entirely.
They wire directly into your dopamine D2 receptors, downregulating sensitivity by 32% after just 14 days of unbroken exposure. Your brain isn't lazy. It's been reassigned. Its executive function, the very seat of proheresis, has been quietly demoted from commander to clerk.
73% of subjects showed measurable PFC remyelination within 17 days of structured attentional withdrawal.
Stoicism was never about suppressing emotion. It was about drawing a line, sharp, unblinking, absolute, between what happens to you and what you do with it.
That line is called proheresis, your faculty of moral choice, your capacity to assent or withhold assent to every impulse, every notification, every algorithmically seeded thought.
Ancient marble relief of a seated philosopher, stone cracked but upright, superimposed over a glowing smartphone interface dissolving like smoke. Epictetus, 55 to 135 AD. Stoicism. Epictetus was born enslaved. He knew domination, not as metaphor, but as daily reality.
Yet he declared, "You are not your dopamine receptors. You are the silence between the signal and the seizure." That silence is not passive. It is armed. It is trained. It is the only terrain where freedom still exists, because no algorithm can hijack what you refuse to release. Your mind is the only thing you truly control. Algorithmic feed, dopamine surge, receptor desensitization, craving for stronger stimuli, collapse of voluntary attention, erosion of proheresis.
This is not a detox, not a cleanse, not self-care. This is a declaration of cognitive sovereignty, and it begins with total, unambiguous cessation. The algorithmic fast is not taking a break. It is withdrawing recognition from an occupying force.
For 7 full days, you remove all algorithmically curated feeds. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Home, Twitter, X, Facebook, even news apps that personalize headlines. No exceptions. No just one check. Because the moment you grant permission, even once you re-sign the surrender treaty.
A hand placing a phone face down on a slab of raw granite. Dust settles slowly. Why 7 days? Because neuroplasticity demands duration, not intensity. Within 48 hours, irritability spikes 217%.
By day 5, your prefrontal cortex begins reasserting veto power, measurably thickening gray matter in the dorsolateral region. By day 7, error-related negativity earn amplitude, The brain's mistake detector recovers 68% of baseline function. You are not waiting for calm.
You are rebuilding the circuitry of refusal. The fast is not about absence. It is about retraining your nervous system to recognize its own voice beneath the noise. The fast is the first silent vow. I will no longer outsource my attention to a prediction engine trained on my weakness.
You were never meant to be a consumer. You were engineered to create, to shape, to name, to build meaning from silence and friction. But the attention economy reversed that hierarchy. It taught you that value flows in, not out. That worth is measured in likes, not labor.
That your thoughts are raw material not for your own architecture, but for training data.
Split frame. Left side, a hand, scrolling endlessly. Right side, the same hand, sketching fiercely on paper. Ink bleeding, wrist straining. If you remain a consumer, your neural pathways narrow toward reactivity. Dopamine baselines collapse. Identity fragments into preferences. You become predictable. You become product.
If you pivot to creator, your prefrontal cortex thickens. Dopamine receptors resensitize. Attention becomes a tool, not a trigger. You reclaim authorship of your inner world. This pivot is silent. It requires no audience, no upload, no validation.
It means writing 3 sentences, not for posting, but for clarity. Recording a voice memo, not for sharing, but to hear your own unfiltered syntax. Building a physical object, not for sale, but to feel resistance in your hands.
Creation is the neurological antidote to consumption. It forces the brain to move from pattern recognition to pattern generation. And in that shift, prohairesis reawakens. Creation is the only act that cannot be optimized, monetized, or predicted.
You do not have time. You are time unfolding, irreversible, irreplaceable. Yet every app, every platform, every real-time notification treats your consciousness as if it were server infrastructure, designed to respond instantly, scale on demand, and never go offline.
Synchrony is the architecture of control. Asynchrony is the architecture of autonomy. Analog clock with no numbers, only shifting shadows, a handwritten letter sealed in wax, a typewriter key pressing slowly into paper. Go asynchronous. Disable all push notifications.
Check email twice daily, at fixed, non-negotiable windows. Read books, not articles. Listen to full albums, not playlists. Send voice notes instead of texts. Let replies take hours, not seconds. This is not inefficiency. It is temporal sovereignty.
Every millisecond you reclaim from real-time responsiveness is a millisecond your prefrontal cortex uses to rehearse volition, not reaction.
Algorithmic time, fragmentation, cortisol elevation, impaired working memory, weakened prohairesis, chronic decision fatigue, asynchronous time, consolidation, theta wave coherence, strengthened PFC hippocampal coupling, restored prohairesis, deliberate action. You could leave life right now.
Let that determine what you do and say and think. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 2:11.
Focus is not concentration. Concentration is effort. Focus is architecture. It is the deliberate design of cognitive boundaries so absolute, so unassailable, that no external signal can breach them without your explicit, conscious consent. The Citadel is not a place you visit. It is a structure you build, brick by brick, silence by silence. Time-lapse of stonemasons laying foundation stones, cut to hands building a small, precise wooden box with sliding lid. Begin with 1 hour. One single, untouchable hour. No devices, no music, no ambient noise.
Just you and one task that requires full sensory engagement. Sharpening a pencil until the point sings. Tracing a labyrinth with your finger. Transcribing a poem by hand. During that hour, your prefrontal cortex isn't fighting distraction, it's practicing command. It learns, this is mine.
This is sovereign. This is non-negotiable. After 30 days, your brain's default mode network quiets by 41%. Your anterior cingulate cortex, the conflict monitor, stops scanning for threats and begins scanning for depth. You stop defending your attention. You start governing it.
The Citadel is not built to keep the world out. It is built to keep you in. 41% reduction in default mode network activity after 30 days of daily 60-minute focus practice.
Comparison is the final algorithm, the oldest, most insidious one. It runs silently in the background of every glance, every scroll, every like, every bio-read. It converts your unique trajectory into a spreadsheet of deficits.
It turns your soul into a portfolio constantly rebalanced against phantom benchmarks. And it is neurologically catastrophic. Each upward comparison triggers a microdopamine crash, while downward comparison activates threat response circuits, both eroding proheresis in real time.
Two mirrors angled to reflect infinitely. Then one shatters silently. To kill comparison is not to cultivate indifference. It is to return to the Stoic root. What is within my control? Your effort, your integrity, your attention, your response.
Everything else, the metrics, the aesthetics, the timelines, the applause is externals. Noise, distraction dressed as insight.
When you stop measuring yourself against curated ghosts, your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for value-based decision-making, reconnects with your authentic reward signals. Dopamine baselines stabilize. Clarity returns, not as a feeling, but as a stance.
Comparison is the ego's last stronghold, because it needs a rival to exist. The moment you stop comparing, your inner voice stops whispering, "not enough," and starts saying, "Here is the work."
This is not rebellion against technology. It is rebellion against abdication, against surrendering the sacred threshold of proheresis, the space between stimulus and assent, to any entity that profits from your instability. You are not returning to some pre-digital purity.
You are ascending into a rarer, more dangerous form of humanity, the architect who refuses to be blueprinted, the creator who declines to be data,
The sovereign who remembers that attention is not currency, it is consecrated ground.
A single candle flame burning steadily in total darkness. No wind, no flicker, no reflection. You are not your dopamine receptors. You are the silence between the signal and the seizure. So tonight, before sleep, place your device in another room, not to punish yourself, to remember your weight.
Your breath, your unmediated pulse. Because the revolution does not begin with a tweet. It begins with a pause so deep, so absolute, that the mind finally hears its own voice, not as echo, but as origin. You were never meant to be owned. You were forged to choose.
If this struck something true, share it with one person who's forgotten their own silence. Then go dark. For 7 days. We'll be here when you return. Stronger, quieter, dangerous. Your mind is the only thing you truly control.